Hi, Teascups.
Hi, Teascups.
Hey.
I'm Kristina.
I'm Kenna.
And I'm Sydney.
Sydney's our creative director.
We wanted to bring Sydney
Hi.
on because just like the chat needs to give some appreciation to Sydney's hair because it's amazing. It's awesome. Also, Kristina's hair. I love the butterfly clips.
And Kenna's hair.
And Kenna's hair, the beads, the braids, yes.
Hair day. And so we just had to show that off today. So Sydney's here for a little while, and then she's going to be replaced by our guest, who we're not going to tell you yet, but we're really excited about. So before we get started, we're just going to do a little bit of housekeeping. So I'm going to tell you guys about Broadway for Racial Justice. We have set up a GoFundMe to raise money for Broadway for Racial Justice. If you don't know what Broadway for Racial Justice is, it is an organization whose sole purpose is to make conditions for BIPOC people in the theater industry better. So they have casting initiatives, amplification programs, they have resources for white allies, they have lots of different conferences, and just they even have a scholarship fund. And my favorite thing that they have is they have a hotline, and it's open 24 hours a day. And if you experience any race-related trauma in the theater industry, you can just pick it up and you can call, and you will speak to another BIPOC person on the other line, and they can give you steps to take action. And the organization has been around for about a year, a little bit over a year now. So any donation counts. They've done so much good work already. So if you can help, anything you can donate. No donation is too small, no donation is too large. They're right there. There's our GoFundMe. We also have a link tree that Kenna will tell you about because she's going to tell you about something cool. There you
go. Yeah, we have a link. I don't really know what something cool I'm supposed to talk about.
No, it's our social media.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so you guys should definitely go follow our social media. Our Instagram is Kristina and Kenna, and we post who our guest is. We post guest to guest. We post musical Mondays where we like say what our favorite songs are from a musical. We just post a lot of stuff on there, so definitely go follow us on there. And in the link tree, you'll see the GoFundMe. So just go follow us on there, and who knows, we might follow you back. So never hurts in following. But yeah, go follow.
Yes, Sydney, do you want to tell us who our guest is since they're going to replace you on the screen?
Yeah, today our guest is Aubrey Lynch. And by...
Hi!
Good morning. Good evening. How's everyone?
Oh, we're so good. So yeah, on the topic of how is everybody, emotional check-in. As you guys know, we always like to start off our show with an emotional check-in just to see how everybody's doing. So Aubrey, how are you today?
I'm well. You know, it's been a rough year for everyone, and I'm not going to lie and say that I had a wonderful year. I had a horrible year. But life turned around on a dime, so I'm really grateful and feeling very optimistic about life right now.
Well, that's awesome. And Kenna, how are you doing today, dear?
I'm doing amazing. I'm at my grandparents' house right now. So I'm super excited about that. And I'm excited for the weekend because it's Friday. What about you, Kristina?
I'm really glad it's like summer. July just started, so it's like kind of the end of summer now. It's like I can see the school year in the distance, so I'm like trying to live my best life for the rest of the month. But yeah, I'm just really excited about our interview today. And yeah.
So we always like to ask our guests to tell them about themselves. So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I am a former dancer with Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, and I was very lucky to be one of the last dancers chosen by him personally before he passed away. And I did then, of course, work with Judah Jemison, who's an incredible artistic director. Then I went on to be an original cast member of The Lion King on Broadway, and ultimately became the associate producer for that show and mounted the production 14 times around the world. And then I went to Harlem School of the Arts and was the dance director for 9 years and designed the program from scratch for kids ages 2 to 18 in ballet, modern jazz, tap, hip hop, and African. And I'm very proud of that program. We put kids on Broadway, television, dance companies. And my most recent news, it's not even been officially announced yet, is that I'm going to be the new Dean of Faculty and Student Affairs at American Ballet Theater. I start next week.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Very, very cool.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
I just want to ask you, what got you into the performing arts?
Well, my parents were very artistic. They weren't performers, but my father did sing. My grandmother was a tapper, and my mother was just very artistic. And so when I was very little, I was very fortunate. They felt we should all play an instrument. We should all go to the art museum. We should all go to concerts. So we really were educated in the arts, all four disciplines, from as long as I can remember. But I was never serious about it. So, and I wasn't really a great mover and dancer, although I loved it. So when I was in high school, my best friend convinced me to enter this dance contest. And it was the first dance I had really done. And before then, I was kind of the nerd of the class, the back of the class, shy and afraid of everybody. So she convinced me to do this crazy thing and compete, and we won. So after we won, she took me to her dance studio. I began taking class, a half-an-hour jazz class once a week. And then eventually I went to a ballet school. And thank God the two ballet teachers there were professional ballet dancers from Europe. And they taught me about School of American Ballet in New York City, American Ballet Theater, Alvin Ailey, which to me was just an idea. I had no idea that people could get paid for dancing. And when I went to the University of Michigan as a chemistry major, because my father thought there weren't enough black people in sciences, I was supposed to go to university and get my PhD in science. So I was going to be a chemical physicist, right? But Alvin Ailey came to Detroit, and I auditioned, and here I am. So it was really something to drop that chemistry degree, though, because I graduated top 10 in my class, and it's all I knew was education. And my worldview was that if you didn't have a high-level degree from an Ivy League school, you didn't have a chance as a black person. That's not true, of course, but my high school mind, that's what I thought. And so the idea of going to join a dance school in New York City, the Ailey School, was crazy. And when I teach now, these years later, and my students say, I want to become a dancer, I go, God bless you. It's not easy. It's not easy. And I remember how my parents felt every time, how my parents must have felt every time I hear a student that I know is working hard wants to become a dancer.
So you mentioned how you went to the University of Michigan, and that's a famous musical theater school, but
Yes.
you went there to study
Chemistry.
So what was that like?
Well, I really love math and science and problem solving. One of my favorite books still is Nature's Numbers. It's just about how numbers occur in nature. It's really a fantastic book. And I love books about theoretical mathematics and science. And that's my hobby. But so I lived in a high school. When I got to University of Michigan, my class had 1,000 kids in it. My Chemistry 101 class had 1,000 kids, and the teacher was way up in the front. It was this big auditorium. He was kind of rambling on and doing formulas on the chalkboard, just like the movies. And I was like, this is horrible. This is not interesting and boring. And I was miserable. And also, I had gotten accepted to Columbia University, and it's an Ivy League school, and I thought that was my way to the future. And my parents didn't want me in New York City. So the University of Michigan was my second choice. So I was already bummed by being there and didn't really want to be there. And then the studying was really, really horrible. And I think I didn't, because I was really good at school and at high school, I didn't know how to really study, because I guess kind of came natural. And so learning that my freshman year was horrible. So I was really not happy at all. Really not happy.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Well, I know we talked about Alvin Ailey, and I take classes with the Alvin Ailey extension.
Oh yeah, they're great. It's got this program.
So, you were one of the last dancers to be picked by Alvin Ailey himself. So, what was it like training at the Alvin Ailey Dance Center and dancing in both the Alvin Ailey Repertory Ensemble and the Alvin Ailey American Dance?
Well, I think based on all that I've done, I think that is probably the most rewarding work I have done as a performer, was dance with that company and with those people and those dancers, those teachers. They're just so amazing. And it was really extraordinary to kind of live this African-American experience through dance. And I learned a lot from the idea and our responsibility of telling our stories, whether it's through poetry, music, or dance. And Alvin Ailey was obviously a master at this. And to have him see something in us and talk to us, and the things he said, like I say this one all the time, but one of the most profound things he ever said was in rehearsal, he said, tell me your life story in that phrase of movement, right? And it was only 8 counts. And the idea that you could tell the human experience or a life story in 8 counts of movement had a profound impact on me. And I saw the world of the dance completely differently after that. And I do think there is a responsibility for choreographers to have some kind of narrative. It's not enough just to move around and make it pretty and spin and jump and turn. You have to be saying something. Dance is a language, and to honor all of our pioneers who made paved the way for us, we've got to keep telling these stories at the highest level and the most exploratory level that you can. So to be with a pioneer, and then there was also Lewis Johnson and George Faison and Carmen de Lavallade and all these incredible people that came through there that were the first of everything that they did. They were always the first. And so I was taught by all these people that were just extraordinarily wise, had been through so much, and had so much, so generous to give to the young people. It was hard. They were much harder than teachers today. Arguably, maybe a little bit abusive by today's standards, but I persevere, we all persevere, and we're all better for it. So I'm really, really proud to have that as part of my life experience.
That is really cool. I never really spoke with anyone who's like taken one of his classes, so it's super interesting to hear about it.
Yeah.
But I know that you traveled around the world with Ailey, and what was like the most memorable trip and performance?
You know, the most memorable one was the first tour we were in, because when Alvin Ailey chose me, there was an audition on the Monday, and then the Friday before, Alvin pulled me into the hallway and said, I am inviting you into the company. We're going to Paris in 2 weeks, and I want you to come with us. And my whole life just turned to Technicolor. It was the most amazing moment to this day of my entire life. It's the most memorable moment. He was standing there. I see him right now, looking at him, and I was floating. And then literally, 2 weeks later, I was in Paris, and I was performing in the Grand Palais, which is this converted exhibition hall, huge 4,000 seat theater, huge glass ceiling. You had to run 8 counts to get to the edge of the stage, right? And Alvin was there, and to do Blue Suite and Revelations and Donna McHale's Rainbow on My Shoulder, these classic modern dances with the master watching was you just can't top it. And then I came off stage one night. Desmond Richardson, a very famous modern dancer, who was my roommate at the time, he sprained his ankle. And so I had to learn his part at the half-hour call backstage. I'm in this little closet with a little video trying to do this dance, and I was terrified of my first tour. And so I go up there and I did it, and I come off stage and I hear this booming voice, Aubrey, that was beautiful. It was Alvin. And I'm just never gonna forget that whole time being in Paris and having Alvin there. I was living the dream. There was no other place on planet Earth I wanted to be. And I'm never going to forget, after my very first season, I took my very first vacation. I was 22 years old. And I went to the Caribbean and laid on the beach and thought to myself, my dream has come true. There is nothing else I could want right now. I'm happy in my life right now. I long for that sense, but because life, then reality hit, and then I'm in the company, and then the touring around was hard. But there is a point, I'm so grateful to have experienced a place where my dream had come true, and I wanted nothing else in the world but that moment. Amazing.
That's incredible. This sounds like amazing.
Yeah, I wish I wish it for everyone, and I know that dream seeking is hard and scary, and I think we have to be easier on ourselves and not be so critical, so critical about when things are not going the way you want them to go. Because looking back at my trajectory, my career, a lot of that I couldn't have predicted. I did want to be in the Ailey company, and that came true. But everything else was totally like just by being in the moment and working hard. So I really wish that people could understand what it's like to have a dream come true, but more importantly, having the courage to go after that dream and to be willing to take the hits and to get back up and to be told no and to do it again anyway. All of those things also are part of that, because I really believe a chemistry degree, go to New York City from a very small town with dirt roads and chickens and ponies and railroad tracks, and I'm in the city with subways and crime, and this was back in '85, in the peak of the HIV epidemic. It was, a whole new kind of world for me, and Working hard means, you know, I was hungry, I had 4 roommates, I was living in illegal subletting projects, and I would walk, you know, 30, 40 blocks to save the money for the subway, and it was really hard. And if you're not willing to work that hard, work harder than you ever thought you could, then dream seeking is not for you. But I do inspire and hope everyone finds it in themselves to go after what they want.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I feel like a lot of people, like, I guess like Kenna and I, like a lot of young people, when we hit to that point, I know I'm about to be a junior this coming year, and it's kind of like everybody's calling, like, what are you going to do? Like, come on now. What's the path? Are you going to take this path or this path?
Yeah.
A lot of, like, decision. But on a lighter note, the Tony Award winning musical The Lion King, iconic show,
right?
Iconic shows in Broadway history, in the history of theater, period, in my opinion.
Yes.
You were an original cast member. What was that like? Wow.
Yeah, you know, it's really incredible when lightning strikes twice in your life, because I think the other dream, it wasn't as clear as Alvin Ailey. I did want to be on Broadway, and I auditioned for a lot of shows. I was cut, you know, for 3 years I was cut from everything. And then eventually I booked The Lion King, and what was so incredible was that it was actually kind of a continuation of the kind of work I did with Alvin Ailey, because Julie Taymor, this incredible director, and Garth Fagan, this incredible concert dance choreographer, and Lebo and the composer, they came together and they agreed that we're going to drop the idea of a lion, the idea of an elephant, the idea of Africa. And what was most inspiring about Julie was that she said, I want to do on stage what can only be done on stage. I don't want to do what you can do in a movie. What can you do in theater that can only work in a live theater audience? And she did that. And when I walked into my very first fitting and I saw the sketches of what her vision was, I was blown away and thought, wow, this is going to be good. Because originally, you know, Disney Lion King, I thought, okay, teddy bears bouncing around like a theme park. That's what I thought it was going to be. And I walked into that first fitting and said, woo, this is very, very different. But then, of course, we had to make it happen. And it was really hard because it was the first time we were using that kind of a stage and having puppets and the silk and the levers and the makeup and the costume changes. I think I changed costumes 19 times. And the very first preview, we hadn't really finished the show. We had never run it from beginning to end without stopping. And I remember I was the last hyena off stage, and I was the first gazelle back on stage. So I had to have this really quick costume change. I remember we were coming on stage half dressed because we couldn't make our entrance. But we got through that show, and it was such a reaffirming thing that if you just trust the vision and you come together as a community and everybody kind of wants the same thing, and we all do our personal best, magic can happen. You know, phenomena happens. And that's the secret behind Lion King. There was an incredible idea that was supported, and everyone who was brought on the board, the lighting designer, the costume designer, the props, the makeup, they were all experts, and they all believed in the vision. Of course, they had their little creative friction. That's natural. But at the end of the day, we wanted to make the pictures Julie saw in her head come to life. And they were crazy pictures, they were. But we really were hell-bent on making these things happen. And I'm so inspired looking back at that. It's the one time I can think that everybody in the room was trying to do the same thing. It's a metaphor for the world. If we can just agree on a vision that we all want peace and love and light and education for our children and food to eat and clean water to drink and a safe place to go to school. If we just say we want these things, let's make them happen together, right? We're not going to agree on how to do that, but we're going to agree that we want them. And that's what Lion King did. And that's why it's a world phenomenon. And I think there are 25 or 26 shows, 25 shows later and 22 years later, it's still going. And it's going to open on Broadway. One of the first shows open after the pandemic. And I'm so proud of that. And when they open it, when they go to that first rehearsal, they can open a book. And the bottom of the book is going to say, created by Aubrey Lynch in 1996, which is the book I wrote for the choreography. And I'm very proud of that. Very, very proud.
Yeah, it's a great accomplishment.
Yeah, I want to say on that note that we had Adrian Walker last week.
Yes.
No, not last week. Yes, last week. Wait.
Sir?
The week before last week.
The
Sorry.
week before.
And she said that you're a great person. And
Thank you.
You're great. And yeah. So I just wanted to put that up there.
Small world, yeah, we're all in this together. We are all in this together, you know. We really, really have to, especially now, come together and figure out how to do this, because we have the ugly underbelly of America has been exposed, and now we know it's real. We are a really crazy country, built in racism and classism and misogyny and all of those things. And now what? Now what are we going to do together? We know that. I don't think the way is to go, you're bad and you did this to us. They did, and it was horrible, and it's disgusting that it's not in our textbooks and all of that. But we have to also be educators. And when you're the first, and you're a pioneer, and you're knocking down walls and changing minds, I think if we take the perspective of let's educate as much as possible, it's not a responsibility to fix this whole mess. But we can say, from my perspective as an African-American male or woman, here's what I feel and experience in this world. Now, you don't want to do that, right? And how would you feel if you were me? So whatever the conversation is, I think it's time to have this really uncomfortable and ugly conversations for the sake of humanity and America and our children. You know, and I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. But again, having this experience and coming through dance and theater and teaching at Harlem School of the Arts, we have a responsibility as industry experts to keep changing minds and to keep speaking truth to power, but do so in a way that's an educational perspective and not, you know, burn down the world. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you guys who are way younger than me, it's up to you. I'm sorry to say so. I know you mentioned being a junior, and no pressure here, but things happen with kids in college, the college age, high school, post-high school, that's when the world changes. The people in the 50s and above, we don't really have that much more impact with it. You all do. So we're counting on you to turn this thing around because it's gone down the wrong path for too long. And whatever you decide to do, Kristina, is going to be the right thing to do. So don't let people make you think you got to know, because I don't really know. I don't really know if I'm doing what I want to do anymore sometimes. I know that I love what I do. I know when I came to New York City to chase a dream, I wanted Alvin Ailey, I wanted to be a dancer. But after that, like I said, it came true. I don't know what I wanted being that specific, but I do know that I wanted to be in the arts, so I did that. But it wasn't like, okay, now I'm gonna go to a Broadway show, and now I'm gonna do a movie, and it wasn't quite like that. It was a bit more blurry. So when young people are saying, what do I do? They're saying, I don't know what I'm gonna do next. And, you know, that's a cursed question. Say, just be inspired by what you've achieved and ask yourself, what's possible now? And be wide open. What's possible, right? Where do my dreams and my passions point me to go? And be fearless and shameless about going there. So, unsolicited advice.
I really
Yes, I love the advice. I think this will help.
Yeah.
I think this will help some of our viewers, and just thank you so much for the advice. But kind of like back to Lion King and how you discuss like being a choreographer. I know you were also dance captain, and you were also an associate producer. And
Yeah.
so what was it like being so involved in just being in the Lion King worldwide?
Yeah, it was really incredible, because it's one thing to be in a hit Broadway show, but then to be in the hit Broadway show, and then to be in charge of putting that hit Broadway show all over the world, where no matter where you go do it, no matter what language or country, it's a hit. That was such a luxury and a privilege, and I did not take that for granted. Because I took the time to write down the choreography, because Garth Fickens' choreographer, I was just the dance captain. I wrote on every single step, the makeup changes, whether they were backstage, the backstage traffic, and that was the book I used to teach The Lion King as a associate choreographer. Then I was promoted to be the associate producer in charge of all of the casting, the creative aspects of the show. And it was my job to make sure that the shows overseas were as close to the Broadway show as possible. And that was hard, because when you're working with producers, they've got their own idea what Lion King is, and they might want to do their own thing. And I would say things like, no, you have to have 2 giraffes in front of the sun. Can't have 1, have to have 2. The cheetah must come out of there. There are things that were iconic pictures you had to have. You could kind of change things, like in South Africa. I'm very proud that we actually brought in 11 official languages. So we took the 11 languages in the country and put the languages into the show, so that when someone who spoke Zulu would hear those lines, someone Xhosa or Sotho. And it was really, really beautiful to do that. And to have the responsibility, it was stressful. It's a huge show, and a lot can go wrong. A lot did go wrong. You're managing people. So if you go to a, their countries are not as open as America is. So you go to speak to a producer in China that's very different than a producer in Amsterdam or South Africa or Australia. And I had to be able to be a chameleon, and I wasn't as good as that. I think I wasn't always good at being a chameleon, at changing based on who I was talking to. So I come in, this is a Lion King, blah, 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 blah. I realized they don't really want you to talk like that. You want to see we're partners. And so I had to learn the hard way how to really collaborate with people that ultimately were purchasing a licensed production. It had to be done one way, but they had to have ownership of it. So I wrote a very fine line, and that has taught me to do what I do now. I was very young, and it was all new, and it was all over the world. It was exciting, but it was a lot of hard work and a lot of reflection and making big public mistakes. And the thing I learned is you can't be afraid to make a mistake and make a fool of yourself. One thing I did know, which is what I'm so proud of, is I knew The Lion King. I knew that show top to bottom, inside and out, and there's nothing like being an expert. I really miss being the undeniable expert of something that I could ask me any question, I had most of the answers, and I worked with other people that were also undeniable experts. And so traveling the world with that was amazing. But then what happens is when you leave The Lion King and you're the expert of a show that you're not doing anymore, then what does that mean? That was a big change for me. And I don't want to jump ahead in case you have a question about that. But to answer your question, that was an incredible experience, and I wouldn't trade it. Very, very blessed. I do not take it for granted at all. I was very, very lucky to get that position.
Well, still in the realm of The Lion King, this is the last Lion King question
Okay.
for now. What was it like developing the Lion King experience?
Yes, that was really amazing because I think I've always been kind of a natural educator, but to look at The Lion King and say, if you were to teach The Lion King as a show in the school, what else can you teach? Because if you do The Lion King in a school, you've got their attention, undivided attention. So then you can teach lighting and sound and costumes and theater and music and dance. You can teach these things. And so it was really, really fun to be a part of those initial conversations and those initial outlines about how to deliver a big musical like Lion King to kids and make it about education, not about the show. And I left before that was finished, but I'm very proud that in my position at the Harlan School of the Arts, we were the first school to pilot the very first version of that. So I was gone 3 or 4 years, and they came back and said, we know you're in Harlem, would you like to pilot the show? And we piloted it there, and the very first version was done by our students that I was training. So I'm so proud of that too. It was really beautiful.
And I also know that you started your own program called the Aubrey Lynch Experience. And just what was the inspiration behind that?
Well, to be honest, it was because after my 11th year of Lion King, after beginning the Lion King experience, I was let go because of downsizing. So I was no longer, it wasn't that I didn't leave on my own. And so that was, of course, as amazing as it was also the darkest time of my life. And I had to kind of look in the mirror and say, who are you? Because I was always Aubrey Lynch of Alvin Ailey, Aubrey Lynch of Lion King, and I was Aubrey Lynch of ... Who is Aubrey? And I hadn't had to ask that question in about 20 years. And part of that was if I had to start over again, well, I had no idea. I really didn't know. I gotten so engrossed in Lion King and traveling the world and doing these things. I was Lion King everything, right? And I hadn't thought, because there wasn't time to plan afterwards. And shame on me for not thinking, remembering that this is not forever. I'm not gonna retire in Lion King. And so I went through a year or two, maybe more, of kind of who am I, what reason, all of that. And what came out of that was, well, if I had to teach something, I created what I learned about the world. And so it was kind of an autobiographical look at dance, theater, music, puppets, light, all these things that I thought were really interesting, and life lessons, believing, cliches, but they're true. Believing in yourself, having the courage to go after a dream, picking a dream. How do you pick a dream? So I designed this program called the Aubrey Lynch Experience. It then evolved to Aubrey Lynch Essential Arts, which was based on a quote that I started kind of rattling off. The arts aren't extracurricular, they're extra-essential. You know, without the arts, we're not complete human beings. So I definitely actually trademarked that because I was such a believer that the arts are a critical part of youth development, and without it, we're not going to be a complete human. And then I broke that down and turned it into a project that I call the Dream League, which is a formula about life that I have that says you've got to pick a dream, you've got to have the courage, you've got to know yourself, and eventually take the leap, and that's called the Dream League. And so everything that I've ever done in my life that was successful, I did those 4 things. I had the idea, had the dream, had to look at myself in the mirror and self-reflect, who am I? And then have the courage, and then if you don't push send, nothing's gonna happen. You gotta get in there and trust you're gonna land on your feet. And so I did. And so all of that came out of trying to find myself after having my whole identity shattered, in a day. One day I'm going to China and to Mexico and to Australia, and then the next time I'm walking with my stuff in a box, just like the movies. Literally a cardboard box with my junk from my office, going home. What do I do now? And I realized that all along it was, and I don't want the viewers to understand this, that when you get the job you want, the job does not make you who you are. You bring value to that job, right? I was not someone because Alvin Ailey picked me. I brought value to the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. Lion King didn't make me who I am. I brought value to the Lion King. And I had to retrain my thinking. And I was certified as a life coach. And I wanted people to realize that we have the power. We have the choice. We're not defined by the things we do, who we know, what we own, and how much money we have. We're defined by the love we share and the life experience we give to others, what we give back to our community, what we give back to our children. That's what makes us who we are, and that's what we remember. And it's great if you can do both, make money and do all of that, but ultimately it's human to human, soul to soul, contact, connection, and paying it forward that's important. And I learned all of that through those 3 years between Lion King and the Harlem School of the Arts. And then I got into that and began to give it to children, and it was profoundly impactful and effective. So I'm really happy that I was able to do that.
Yeah, I think that one thing about like the performing arts community is that it's like the negative side is it's very competitive, but the other side of that is that it's so accepting of like.
So what? So accepting. So what?
Accepting. I feel of like all different people, and that's something that I really enjoy about that. And I started taking classes at Harlem School of the Arts the beginning of 2021, and that was a very accepting environment for me, and I really enjoy it, and I love it so much. And you've been a member of the faculty for like what, 10 years or over
10 years? 10 years. Yeah.
What has that experience been like for you?
It has been really, really rewarding. I mean, when you think about the responsibility we have as educators, and my job was I basically designed the curriculum from top to bottom for the dance program. And for me, it wasn't about teaching kids dance. That's important, and that's what they came there for. But it really was about being in partnership with parents and raising children. Most kids are not going to come, even kids in Alvin Ailey School or the SAB or School of American Ballet, these kids are not all going to become professional dancers, right? But the education of being in the dance experience is what is important. And so I chose teachers that really understood that you're teaching kids to be people. Our language is dance in the particular program, but we're ultimately saying we want this child to feel heard, to feel seen, to be able to stand in their skin, in their shoes, and have a voice, have confidence in their voice. And I said, if they didn't leave the school or the class feeling better about themselves, then we failed. I don't care how many pirouettes they can do, how they can jump, how many dance moves they can remember. If they don't feel like they're a stronger, better person, then we have failed as teachers. So that sounds pretty, but it was hard because it was just me. There wasn't a lot of resources. I didn't have a whole team, and I managed the faculty, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I had a lot of angry parents. But at the end, when I got to that 9th year, I had very grateful parents, and I put kids in Broadway and film and television, and I'm very proud. Some kids that are superstars, like Caleb McLaughlin, who's now got 11 million followers on Twitter, Or I coach Heidi Ray Joseph. She's in the movie Us and the Netflix hit Them. And then there's Aubrey Joseph, who was in Cloak and Dagger since they were 8 years old. I'm really proud of that. I've got kids that are dancing professionally. There's a boy named Kaya Muhammad who's in Complexions Contemporary Ballet, and Naya Lavelle who's in Romberg Ballet in London. These are all my students from the last 10 years. And to be able to have the generation turn around like that so quickly is profound. I'm so grateful to be able to say that I have had that experience of giving all that stuff back to the community and seeing it so quickly turn around and knowing that they in turn will do the same. So it was hard, and some of the most trying moments of my life were spent in that building, trying to make things happen, but the reward is immeasurable. And it almost rivals that moment with Alvin. Not quite, but almost rivals that moment when I see those kids in movies and hear them singing their songs, see them on Broadway, to see I helped make a dream come true. That's profoundly impactful. And when I pass, when I transition to the next world, when I die, I know that I've done my share. I know that I have. I really have. And I hope to do a lot more, but I know that I've had a real impact on my community, and I'm very, very proud of that.
Definitely have.
That's such a great accomplishment. But
Thank you.
Speaking of mentoring, you've mentored a lot of people. So what is your favorite part about mentoring and teaching?
I don't even know what that is about, the whole mentorship thing. I do think mentorship is very important. And I find that I fall into the natural big brother, father, kind of paternal educator. Even my friendships, I kind of find myself in that role. And I think it may be because of how I was raised. I'm the oldest son. My parents were divorced, very classic story, where I became the head of the household very, very young. I was parentified, as they say. And happy to do it. I have no regrets about that. But I think because I grew up in a house where I was kind of had to be responsible and keep track of things with my mom. When I found myself in my professional world, I'm playing that role all the time. So there is something really beautiful about helping people find that aha moment, helping them see the beauty and the light and the love and the glory and the power in themselves. I'm really fulfilling about that. I wonder sometimes how much of it is ego-driven, how much I'm trying to live out my stuff through them. I don't know if that is true or not. I've often, asked the question. I'm not really sure where that comes from. But I do know that it's fulfilling, and it's a critical part of evolution, particularly in the arts and education, to be there for people, whether they're adults or children, to teach what you know, as Dr. Maya Angelou says. Teach what you know, and at our best, we are teachers. I'm very happy that I'm very blessed that I've been able to remain in that role and be paid for it for a long, long time. And so mentorship is going to be a part of my life no matter where I am. And I think that comes from having a really hard time in the industry, but having been mentored and helped. I was not alone. I had people who helped me. A lot of people who helped me. I would not be here if I hadn't had a lot of people that are behind the scenes pushing me and helping me and giving me money at times, giving me food, literally giving me clothing. It was that first summer was really rough in New York City all those years ago. Mentors got me through that. So I'm paying it forward.
Yeah,
that's
great.
Sure.
I know when I was researching you, something very interesting I found that really stood out was that you're on the faculty of the Therapeutic Arts Alliance of Manhattan.
Yeah.
What is that like? What is that whole experience? What is the program like?
Yeah, part of my my kind of finding myself after The Lion King and before the Harlem School of the Arts, I met a woman named Emily Nash at a conference, and Marianna Houston. They're these amazing artists who use theater and the arts to heal. And I didn't know now I know it's called creative arts therapies. You can go into prisons, you do this in mental health facilities, senior citizens, abused children. They use the arts to actually do therapy. Now, I'm not a therapist by any stretch, but as I said, I've got a natural parental personality and traits that do that. And a lot of what we do in the industry is listening, reflecting, and helping point people towards a truth or their truth, or even just reflect back what you're hearing them say. I was also training as a life coach. So I was really profoundly impacted by the work these two women did when you could, have you could talk about having a horrible life experience, and that's one experience, which is important, but you can paint about it and then talk about the painting. And then you're one step removed from the actual pain and of this experience, and you can actually speak to it in a way that you can't speak to it if you're asked a direct question. And it's very powerful for kids, for people that are dealing with mental issues, mental health. And I was very inspired by that. So I trained with them, and I co-led some workshops with her. And now all of those tools, the life coaching and the creative arts therapies, are kind of inside of all the work that I do as a mentor, and the workshops that I do as a teacher, and the things that I do as an educator. It's something I just didn't know it existed, but it's something I'm really, really beautifully impacted by, and I use.
For sure.
And then you wrote, directed, and choreographed Uptown Family Swing. Can you tell us about the show?
Oh, that was great. That's my favorite show of all my life. It was partnering with Harlem Children's Zone and Winter Marsalis at Jazz at Lincoln Center. And my job was to create a dance to Duke Ellington music with 100 kids. That was kind of the concept. And they said, just go do it. So I'm sure they expected they were just going to do, kids in t-shirts and some swing dance and really fun with sneakers and having a good time. I said, oh, no. Not Aubrey Lynch. I'm going to give them Broadway. So I did write the show. It was about a boy who finds a trumpet who takes him to this world called Jazzland. It's basically After Midnight Meets the Wiz. And the lead boy was Caleb McLaughlin before he was famous. He was still in The Lion King at the time. And I brought together 18 schools and some kids that are now, like I said, working in television and these things. And it was beautiful. Because I had resources. I had this incredible orchestra. I had these great kids from Harlem, and I had props, and I could pay for props and pay teaching artists, and the sky was the limit. So I just made sure the show was in service. So I wanted to make sure that kids saw Black kids being heroes. I don't care what the color of the audience is, but I want the kids to see that this Caleb McLaughlin could be a hero of a big, huge show. And at the time, I don't think that was conscious, but a parent told me later, when my little boy saw Caleb on stage, and he said, if he made it sound like Caleb was his hero. And I didn't think that. So kids who don't see us as heroes on television, movies, and Broadway all the time, that was a profound experience to have the Black, man leading the orchestra and all these Black kids on stage telling jazz and all from our culture was so beautiful. And I long to do it again. It costs a lot of money, but one day I hope I can remount that show and do it again because it was fabulous.
Yes, I really wish I got a chance to see that show.
Yeah, it was a thing. Really nice thing.
That's so amazing.
I think representation is so important, and I think that we're making some steps now.
Yeah, we're gonna get there. It's gonna take a long time. It's not gonna happen in our lifetimes because there's too much work to do. But at least people are aware that something is going on that's not cool, and we have to turn it around. And it'll take everyone. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you can finish.
And it will take everyone. We all have to be a part of this change. And I'm not confident that there's any one person that can galvanize all of us, and that's a problem. There are now two completely different perspectives and kind of Americans, way that we think. But I think ultimately, someone or someones will come forward in the future that'll be able to identify the things we have in common, the things that we want together that I was talking about earlier. That if we can start with what we have in common and not what's different, that's the way forward. And that's basically how you reach children. You have to find out what language they speak. They might not speak reading, writing, memorization, test. They might speak something else. And we as educators have to find that language because every child is teachable. They are teachable. You just got to find the way that they learn. And so this crazy world of insurrection and all the stuff going on in the country, we're going to have to say, okay, stop the madness. We all want to eat. We all want to sleep. We all need a house. We all want to raise children. We want to have education. So let's start there. The how is not important, but let's start what do we all want and need in common, and what do we share, and how can we go forward together? And I guess part of it is we got to want to do it. I think part of it is there are people that don't want to be together. They want to separate it. Our economy works better when we're kind of fractured. But I'm hopeful that there's a utopian version of this world that we realize that people are wanting the same thing. And we can find it together.
Well, speaking of steps forward, you're now the Dean of Faculty and Students at the American Ballet Theater.
I know.
What are you most excited about in this new job?
Well, you know, what's so amazing is that I was trained as a ballet dancer. And as I look back, there were not a lot of opportunities for young Black dancers to dance classical ballet. And I mean, there was Dance in Harlem, and then I'm not sure where else would have gone. And as I progressed in my career, I did meet people who became classical Black ballet dancers, but there's still not a lot of them. So the idea that I could come make a full circle and be in a place where I could help young ballet dancers look forward to the world is extraordinary privilege. I'm very humbled by it. I'm very excited by it. But I understand the responsibility that when young people are training at that level, at the very limit of human ability, like an athlete training for the Olympics, they're going for the Olympics every day. You know, Olympiads will train all their lives for one performance and get that gold. Hooray for them, it's amazing. But a dancer is going to the Olympics every night, every day. They're going for their personal best. Their gold medal is their personal best. And to be a part of a community that is making their lives better is really exciting for me.
Yeah, well,
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. It's incredible. It's really amazing. I start July 12th, and I can't wait.
Lastly, what advice do you have for people who want to pursue the performing arts career?
Like I said, you got to have the dream. You got to know yourself, know what you want to do. You got to find the courage and make the leap. That's the easy answer. The tough one is you have to identify your ability and be honest about it. What can I actually do? And get good training and try to find out do your research, what is the best school for what I want to do, and then look for mentors who can help guide you and be there, have your back, and then take that leap. It really is that simple. It's you have to. I guess I should say that's not simple. That's the logistics. The real thing is you have to have that grit. You got to be able to persevere. It is not the most talented people that make it to the top of the industry. It's not the luckiest people. It's people that they stick with it. They're honest about where they are. They self-reflect. They go, maybe I'm not really a jazz dancer. I'm better at tap dancing. You kind of go that way. You're not giving up on the jazz if that's your dream. You're saying that I'm better suited for the tap, for example. And you got to be honest about that. And keep checking in with yourself, making sure that you're okay. And feeding the artist with other art forms, poetry, music. See a lot of theater. Be around artists. Find people that support you. It's a lifelong dedication. In America, we don't celebrate the arts like they do in Europe. Europe is subsidized. You get parental leave. It's all built into the education system. It's all there. But America is, good luck. So you have to be really, really resilient. And when I look back over the last, 37 years since I took my first dance class, it's not the most talented people that are running the industry now. They're the ones that were there, that persevered, that did the work, and that were clever, and that were problem solvers. They were building community. They were picking all those things you do. So you're not in this alone. You've got to be a part of the community and give back, but you've got to train and be, most importantly, be able to recognize an opportunity. Success is being able to say, that's the door I need to go through, not this one, right? Or this door opens, that's not the door that I want to go through, but that's where the gift is. I'm going through that door. And that's what I did a lot. I did a lot of that in my career. I didn't come to New York City to run a dance program in Harlem, right? But when the opportunity arose, I said, that's a good fit for me right now in my life. I'm going to see what that's like. And what happened? If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be about to be the dean of MBT. So I certainly didn't come to New York City to become a dean. But I saw the opportunities along the way. I've been working with American Ballet Theater for about 7 years with HSA. And when the opportunity arose, I said, you know, that's exactly what I want to do. Who knew? I didn't know until they asked the question. So you really have to be open your mind to have the beginner's mind and recognize the things that are out there. Have your passion, have your goal, and be willing to change your mind. I say, I reserve the right to change my mind at any time. Don't think because you said you're going to do it, you got to actually do it. Finish what you start, yes. And I'm going to kind of contradict myself, but if it's not right, get the hell out of there. Do something else.
That is a great advice, and
Thank you so much.
I know our viewers will love it. But thank you so much for coming on our show. You provided a lot of advice that will be really helpful to me and to a lot of others. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for having me. And I'm glad that you reached out to me. Best of luck with the show. It's a wonderful concept, wonderful idea. And we're all in this together, so see you when I see you.
Yeah, see you when we see you. Thank you so much. Wonderful.
Okay. Take care, ladies.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, so I guess we don't really have time for tea today. So I'm thinking we should wrap this up, but that was a great interview. I hope you Teascups had your notepads and your pens and you guys were taking notes. And if you weren't, we have YouTube.
I was about to plug the YouTube channel that if you didn't take notes, you can always head to our YouTube channel, Kristina and Kenna, and we post the streams over there. So you can never miss a stream. You can always
check it out. It's right down there. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming, and we have some new fun things that are coming on the horizon. So be on the lookout. Definitely follow us on our social media so you guys can be on the know, like in the know before everything else. But thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.